to give you something. It's a prop for the show. It's some gluten-free banana oat bran muffins. Yeah. Oh yeah, here's the paper towel. Just take one and pass it down. Don't worry, no one has cooties, right? That's what I thought.
It'll bring us all together.
It will. So just a warning, especially for veterans, there will be gunshot sounds, but they sound very fake, so don't worry. We'll have a Q&A afterwards, so if you'd like to stay, great. Yeah, so that's everything. So just sit back, enjoy the show, stay after for the Q&A if you want, if not, it's fine. And yeah, we'll be having the play now.
A month and a half now, and this is definitely the most difficult situation that I've ever seen. In the time that I've been here, children have been shot and killed. On the 30th of January, the Israeli military bulldozed the two largest water wells, destroying over half of Rafa's water supply. Every few days, if not every day, businesses are demolished here. People are economically devastated because of the closure of the borders into Egypt and the extreme control of the Gazan economy by Israel. I came to look at the aftermath of a place where 25 greenhouses had been demolished on the other side of Rafah, destroying the livelihoods of about 300 people, and that had taken place while they rounded up about 150 men, held them under a sniper tower, and shot around them to contain the men, the farmers in the area. So I feel like what I'm witnessing here is a very systematic destruction of people's ability to survive, and that is incredibly horrifying.
Every morning I wake up in my red bedroom. It seemed like genius when I painted it, but it's looking more and more like carnage these days. I blink for a minute. I get ready to write down some dreams or a page in my journal or draw some very important maps. And then the ceiling tries to devour me. I wriggle around under my comforter, trying to find a ballpoint, a Crayola, anything fast. But I can hear the ceiling split and gnash above me, waiting for me to look, because if I look, it'll eat me. And I struggle to find some socks and some boxers so I can make a run for it, but I haven't done laundry in a month, and the other girl who lives in my room when I'm here, the bad one who tends the garden of dirty cups and throws ashtrays around and throws clothes around, the other bad girl who hides all my pens when I'm sleeping. And I try and look at my fingers. I try and look at all the fashion magazines left by the other bad girl to find one pen. Just one pen. But I can't imagine where any pens might be and trying to imagine, I get off guard for a minute and my eyes roll up to the ceiling and I'm done. I'm done now because there's no sky. There's that ceiling up there and it has me now. Because I'm looking at it now and it's gonna rip me to pieces. I wonder why I didn't notice the awfulness of my room before. I'm inside a terrifying mirror. I glued things to the wall. My God, I glued things to the wall. The question is always where to start the story. That's the first question. Trying to impose order is the first step to ending up in a park somewhere painted blue singing "Row, row, row your boat" to a bunch of saggy-lipped junkies and business people munching on oat bran muffins. And they're all meaningless details, my friend. "1991. My name is Rachel Corrie.
I am 12 years old. I was born on April 10th, 1979 in Olympia, Washington, to my mother and father, Craig and Cindy Corrie, a brother, Chris, a sister, Sarah, and a really, really old cat named Phoebe. Ugh. When I was 5, I discovered boys, which made my life a little bit more difficult, just a little, and a lot more interesting. In 2nd grade, there were classroom rules hanging from the ceiling. And right now I can only think of one, but it seems like it would be a really, really good rule for life. Everyone must feel safe!
Safe to be yourself.
Physically safe! Safe to say what you think! Just safe! That's the best rule I can think of. Now I'm in middle school. I guess I've grown up a little. I mean, it's all relative anyways.
9 years is as long as 40 years, depending on how long you've lived.
I stole that from my dad. Sometimes I feel like my dad is the wisest man in the whole world.
Hi.
You understand that none of this is really true. Because what I wrote here today might be true, but you read it by tomorrow or the next day and my whole life would be different. Is that how life is? A new draft for each day, a new view for each hour?
When I was in the 5th grade, we had a list of questions for our yearbook. One of them was,
What do you want to be when you grow up?
everyone wrote something like doctor or astronaut or Spider-Man. And then there was my 5-paragraph manifesto on the million things I wanted to be, from wandering poet to first woman president. It was really cute in 5th grade, but when it's 10 years later and I'm a junior in college, and I don't have the conviction to cross Spider-Man off my list, well, you can guess it gets a bit nerve-wracking. My mother used to walk me down to the bottom of the hill to wait for the car. And I invent that occasionally on the way we decided I wasn't going to school. She took me to bookstores in Seattle. We went to lunch. Although she never said it straight out, I'm sure she was hoping I'd become a bank robber or something. My mother would never admit it, but she wanted me exactly how I turned out. Scattered and deviant and too loud. Before I go out, I'm gonna have people in tutus. Stockbrokers in Viking hats. Priests with panties on their heads. In the world I'm building, everybody shouts, "Hello!" to everybody else from their carpenters. People have speakers attached to their chests that pour out music so you can tell from a distance what mood they're in. And they won't be too tricky to come out with a raincoat. Okay, I'm Rachel. Sometimes I wear ripped blue jeans. Sometimes I wear polyester. Sometimes I just take off all my clothes and swim naked at the beach. I don't believe in fate, but my astrological sign is Aries, the ram. And my sign on the Chinese zodiac is the sheep. And the name Rachel means sheep, but I've got a fire in my belly. It used to be such a big, loud, blazing fire that I couldn't hear anybody else over it. Yesterday, I heard from Chris in Gaza. I'm being invited there. I should go. I've been organizing in Olympia for a little over a year now on anti-war and global justice issues. And it just seemed like the work was missing a connection to the people who were actually impacted by the U.S. tax money. I just think we have a right to be critical of government policies. Any government policies, especially ones which we're funding. I feel pretty isolated from the world because living in Olympia my whole life and my activism at this point has been extremely tied to Olympia. But I've had this underlying need to go to a place and meet people who are on the other end of the tax money that goes to fund the U.S. military. Trying to be local and respectful of the local is a big part of my ethic, I guess. I'm given to making very important lists. 5 people who I wish I'd met who are dead. Salvador Dali, Carl Jung, MLK, JFK, Josephine. 5 people to hang out with in eternity. Rainer Maria Rilke, Jesus, E.E. Cummings, Gertrude Stein, Zelda Fitzgerald. 6, Charlie Chaplin.
I didn't intend to become so deeply involved in activism this year. I'm not sure what compelled me to sign up for the local knowledge class. I'm scared of people, particularly of people in the greater Olympia area. I have been here my whole life. Almost everyone I know and have known in Olympia came from somewhere else. This is another place where progressive people escaped a few decades ago. A place where hippie kids come after touring with jam bands. Over 1,000 people are still, as far as I can tell, being held somewhere in the United States, and it's unclear why. They arrest the dirty bomber, someone apparently in the very early stages of planning an attack on the US, and this is big news. What does this say about the other 1,000 people being held somewhere? That they weren't in the early stages of planning anything. Looking where I fit into all this forced me out into the community. You come to take for granted where you belong in a town. If you have an overactive fantasy life, you just started making things up. You can remember just enough unrelated pieces of trivia to hold a coffee table conversation and never have to think about anything disturbing or demanding of action. I'm still pretty shell-shocked by this semester. I spoke to a room of about 40 international students. I helped in the planning of 2 conferences, facilitated meetings. I danced down the streets with 40 people from the ages of 7 to 70 dressed as doves. I spent a lot of time with the homeless group. I went with them to city council. I went to the community conversation. I slept out overnight on May Day.
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack, and you may find yourself in another part of the world, and you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile. You may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife, and you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? And you may ask yourself, how do I work this? And you may ask yourself, what is that large automobile? And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful house. And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again. After the money's gone, once in a lifetime, water flowing underground. Same as it ever was. 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 Same as it ever was.
Who is this person? How did I get here? I will not leave this house if it's to turn in my own work or complete some other act of self-preservation. I will never leave my bed. The salmon talked me into a lifestyle change.
There's a hole, a pipe, in the bulkhead of East Bay Marina. Every year, we swim into that hole trying to find our way home. We have to swim all the way up Plum Street, in the hole.
That hole is Moxley Creek. Once you know that there are salmon down there, it's hard to forget. You imagine their moony eyes while you walk home from the bar in your slutty boots. It's hard to be extraordinarily vacuous when you always have the salmon in the back of your mind. And that pipe down there, on their way to daylight at Watershed Park. Salmon are the history that isn't trivia. They are what were here before. I look at this place now and I just want to do right by it. The salmon beneath downtown, and the creeks, and the inlets, and the people that were here first, my elementary school teachers, and my mom. email me anyone you know who would be a good contact in case I get in trouble, though I'm not planning on it. I'm giving the Olympian your number. Please think about your language when you talk to them. I think it's smart that you're wary of using the word terrorism. And if you talk about the cycle of violence or an eye for an eye, you could be perpetuating that the Israel-Palestinian conflict is a balanced conflict instead of a largely unarmed people against the fourth most powerful military in the world. These are the kinds of things it's important to think about before talking to reporters. I'll call you tonight. I know a woman who's pregnant, and she's decided not to assign a gender to her baby until it chooses its own. I think that's a little nuts. Anyway, I think my mom had a similar attitude towards my spirituality. She was determined I would find it for myself. I am heartbroken by the way she arranges jewelry. I am heartbroken at the thought of her standing there in her big bra, pantyhose stretched over her underwear, dabbing on her lipstick, moving pink powder across the bums of her cheeks till it hangs on into her pores. My mom ages and puts on makeup and slides these bracelets across her wrists where the skin is loose. Oh, I know I scare you, Mom. I'm sorry I scare you. But I want to write, and I want to see. And what would I write about if I stayed within these doll's house flower world I grew up in? You gave me potential. I love you. I'm growing out of what you gave me, and I'm saving it inside of me and growing outwards. Let me fight my monsters. You made me. You made me. Mom, why doesn't Dad ever write me? Has he gotten himself addicted to cocaine while he's away and forgotten his family? He never wrote me and gave me fatherly advice on how to get a job or told me how he almost got swept into the ocean looking for whelks. If this continues, I'm gonna have to start dating 40-year-olds to make up for my underdeveloped animus. Actually, Dad, that was a joke. But I do think it's important that I fill you in on some sketchy things that have been going on up here. Don't tell Mom who tipped you off, but the mailman's been coming by a lot more than usual, and he's been staying a real long time. And he's been wearing these really racy high-cut mailman shorts. And Mom's been dressing trampy. I just thought you should know.
You know, you're just like your mother, making fun of people with disabilities. You criticize me for not writing back when I can hardly see that computer, let alone type on its screen. But yet I understand your criticism. I mean, never mind that all I get is hand-me-downs or the cast-off emails that your mother may choose to share with her husband, or not. I mean, I don't complain. I mean, that's a father's life. You know, work all day so that others may enjoy. I give it freely. Never a word from me.
You never get your own personal emails because if I so much give you a heads up in one of my emails to Mom, I have to prepare myself for the mockery and neoliberal jabs and my progressive education. That are always the things that I get. Down, oppressor man. It's a good thing that you, Sarah, and Chris all appear to have stable salaries because I am steadfastly pursuing a track that guarantees I'll never get paid more than 3 Triscuits and some spinach. What I have: a house cat, small hands, crooked toes, knees, elbows, thighs, a throat, and a belly, dirt under my nails, 6 lost journals beneath seats on trains across the country, if a Buick, it's questionable, 8 black ballpoint pens, sharp teeth, and hope for what I want. A garden with pumpkins and bare earth to churn over and churn over. Hardwood floors for soft ballets, air and raspberries, and sometimes in the morning, danger and stolen kisses from a mystery lover man.
I have exactly as much of Colin's memory as I need. The sun was shining. Colin read political economy in a green chair, while I danced around to magnetic fields to mow the lawn. We walked to school together in the morning, and it started to rain. Colin always wanted to walk faster. Colin! And I wanted to try to identify the ferns. I woke up one day early with errands to run, and I decided that I would bump into Colin and his new hoochie girlfriend. I shaved my armpits. I danced around in front of the mirror in my tight t-shirt I got from the little boys section at the Salvation Army. I really like that t-shirt. I smeared on chapstick. Fun life, I say. Fun life! I imagine I live in a Mountain Dew commercial. I'm always on the beach with the baby, and I'm always dancing! Yeah! I meandered through downtown. They are here somewhere, almost in a shadow and snare together. Fun life. Free as a bird. Toucans sing. I drive to school embarrassed at myself. And of course, he emerges from the library. Minus hoochie girlfriend. I shove my hips out in the sun, make 6 guns at him. He makes 6 guns back at me. This town ain't big enough for the 2 of us. Hey, hey.
Hey, hey.
What are you doing here?
Reading up some young anarchists?
You pronounce his words like rubber bands stretching and snapping. I perform a dance beneath the conversation like I have to pee. Life, fun life, fun life.
How are you?
He's uncomfortable. I grin. Sun shines on the apples of my cheeks. Well, I'm well. Just meeting some people. How are you?
I'm good. Got a job. Scrubbing toilets.
Nice!
You know, my friend from North Carolina went home.
You had a friend from North Carolina?
You know, Leslie.
Sunshine on the apples of my cheeks, sticking my eyelashes, and I'm on the beach and I'm always dancing. Shoot, Colin, what happened? Things were going so well. He shook his head and laughed at me. It's easy to make the journey. You will know when the time comes. You will fall in love with someone who perpetually leaves you. Someone who beats you at Scrabble all the time, talks with big words, and tells all stories as if they're blues songs. You will memorize the features of someone whose eyes are perpetually bored and whose lips are perpetually amused. Eventually, I convinced Colin to quit drowning out my life. His life
and mine took place on a much smaller scale.
That is done now. We are proportionate.
On Wednesday, I walked into the forest, and I stood on the bridge and looked at the log that lay across the little stream. Someone had taken rocks from the stream and lined them like little multicolored frogs across the log. I climbed onto the log and walked across it, barefoot, nimbly, so that one of the rocks fell into the water. I squatted in the pebbles and fished out interesting rocks for myself. I held them and cleaned them and put them in my pocket. Then I stood like Huck Finn with my jeans rolled up, and I sang through the forest. I hummed. I made up waltzes. I belted out Russian drinking songs. Da 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 da.
We're all born and someday we'll all die. Most likely to some degree alone.
What if our aloneness isn't a tragedy? What if our aloneness is what allows us to speak the truth without being afraid? What if our aloneness is what allows us to adventure, to experience the world as this dynamic presence, as this interactive, changeable thing?
Okay, but if I lived in Bosnia or Rwanda, needless death wouldn't be a distant symbol to me, it'd be a reality. And I have no right to this metaphor, but I use it to console myself, to give some fraction of meaning to something so enormous and needless. January 25th, 2003. Very little problem at the airport. My tight jeans and cropped sweater seemed to make all the difference. And of course the use of my Israeli friend's address. The only question was,
Where did you meet her?
the woman behind the counter seemed not to notice my shaking hands. I took a taxi to Jerusalem and I saw that the Holy Land has a lot of rocks, and it seemed like driving, you can fall off the wheels. And just before I read in the Let's Go Israel book that more Israelis have been killed in car accidents than in all of Israel's wars combined. I'm still trying to figure out what to make of this information tidbit. A day later, I'm sorry,
introduction to curfew was gentle. To rush outside in the midst of our training to buy lunch before the shops closed in the base of Sahara. There was music, singing into the street, and it was singing in Arabic. By the time the whole group of us had a shawarma and a falafel, The noise had become the bleat of military jeep horns, the squeal of a car and a voice shouting through a bullhorn. Border police of IDF, I don't remember which.
The scariest thing as a non-Jewish American in talking about Palestinian self-determination is the fear of being or sounding anti-Semitic. The people of Israel are suffering, and Jews have a long history of oppression, and I know we still have some responsibility for that, but I think that it's very important to draw a firm distinction between Israel as a state and Jewish people. I know that's kind of a no-brainer, but I feel like there's a very strong pressure to conflate the two. And I ask myself, in whose interest does it serve to identify Israeli policy with all Jewish people? Right? Anyway, I'm really new to talking about Israel-Palestine, so I don't always know the political implications of my words. Notes for training. When talking, no hearsay. Use official sources and call hospitals. Use quotes, obviously. Don't appear to judge rightness or wrongness, even if you are. Non-violence. Don't touch those we're confronting, and don't run. Just breathe. Carry nothing that can be used as a weapon. And no self-initiating actions. January 26th, travel from Beit Sahar to Jerusalem. January 27th, an attack in Gaza the night before last killed 14 and injured around 30.
The West Bank and Gaza are under extremely strict curfew until after the elections tomorrow. You're not allowed to leave your house for anything. Not for food. Nothing. I'm still in Jerusalem aiming to get Rafa to join the other internationals trying to prevent the demolition of civilian homes. I'm relatively sheltered here. Walking around with Palestinians, I wait while they're stopped to show ID. Blue stars of David are spray painted on the doors in the Arab section of the old city. I've never seen the symbol used in quite that way. I'm used to seeing the cross used in a colonialist way. I know this is something I really don't understand right now. The reality of the curfew, the checkpoints. I'm sort of embarrassed about how long it takes me to realize that people actually live like this.
At 10 p.m., I traveled to Rafah. Jane met the cab, but there was soldiers at the bus stations and a bombed market in Gaza City. Children grabbed my ass, throw bugs in my head and scream and
What's your name? What's your name? You look weird. What's your name?
sleep in tent. Gunshot through the tent. Start smoking.
to set in what is happening here, because I think many of the people here, they try to maintain what they can of their lives, and I don't know, maybe it has to do with protecting their children, that they try to be happy, joke with their children. So sometimes it takes time to it's hard to hold in your mind, you know, the complete reality of what's happening here. Sometimes I'm sitting down to dinner with people and I just realize that that there is a massive military machine surrounding them and trying to kill these people that I'm having dinner with, these families that I'm sitting down to eat with, and who are being very generous and kind to me, and their children here who are incredibly threatened, living lives that no child ever should have to live. And so I feel a lot of horror, really. I feel a lot of horror about the situation.
Today I decided to follow Joe's lead and write every spare crack of time in every day. We are in Jahan's brother's apartment in Khan Yunis. There's some visible class difference between this building and, say, Brazil or Block J. There are toys for the kids, a table, but these blank walls with birds weaving in and out of the windows would be symptomatic of nearly crushing poverty in the United States. There's some greenery, there's trees, there's grassy places, and they're probably shielded by Rafah, which is raised, bullet-riddled, and bare. Jahan's uncle came to visit us, and he told us that
There was a peaceful time in the late 70s, early 80s. We built our houses. We worked in their factories. It is the people that made war.
today visits to Gaza, RE Nursing, UN, Children's Parliament, Women's Group, we need to make one
beautiful banner in Arab and in English.
February 1st. After we had helped the water people do more repair, we had gone to look for some more banner fabric. Jahan told us that someone got killed at the Rafah-Egypt border. We drove in a strangely Californian SUV past the cemetery towards the Palestinian side of the border. We were ushered into an office with a stretcher, and we went inside, each of us with a handle.
Do not shoot. We are unarmed civilians.
Go back.
And then they shot 20 meters in front of us. As we moved towards the direction of the body, the shots shifted. hitting 2 or 4 meters in front of us. We heard a high whistling gunfire sound. We stopped, and Jenny wanted to talk to the commanding officer.
Leave. You'll get the body later.
And then a tank and a bulldozer emerged from the IDF side of the checkpoint and proceeded towards the olive grove. They created a mound of dirt and they shot repeatedly into it. This is my very poor drawing of the dead body we just carried. He had a big white hand poised in the air of the stretcher as if he was doing a crawl or he was throwing a baseball.
I had a dream about falling. Falling to death off of something dusty and smooth and crumbling like the cliffs in Utah. But I kept holding on. And when each new foothold or handle of rock broke, I reached out as I fell and I grabbed a new one. I didn't have time to think about anything. Just act as if I was playing an adrenaline-filled video game. And I heard, I can't over and over again in my head. Seems positive compared to what I used to have been through.
This is it. I'm going to die.
February 4th. In Dr. Samir's garden. There's a fig tree with small buds, dill, lettuce, garlic, white chairs, and a deflated soccer ball, and a blanket drying on the line. It's a patchy lawn and long shadows. 2 bulldozers, tanks. I went into the kitchen and stayed for 2 hours. The tank stayed too, so no work, no school. And then a soldier came with a sledgehammer, and the tank started firing. The family were in the kitchen watching Tom and Jerry, and I played with the children to distract them. And then Dr. Samir said,
Before Rinti para, no tanks, No bulldozers, no gunshots, no noise. After the Intifada, daily. Gunshots, daily. I have no gun in my house. Nothing. 20 years saving money for house. We also afraid no other place to go. In 3 hours they can destroy house. I look at my gun and I ask myself, will this year you eat from those trees like other years? I trust in my God, so no problem.
February 6th. I rode on the bulldozer as it repaired the road throughout the day. Will and Jenny held a banner and talked on the megaphone for us. A tank stayed throughout the action. And at some point, a Jeep arrived. And this really frightened me because I know at least one person who was being killed by soldiers in green Jeeps. And then some youths, I don't know, maybe 3, came towards the banner, and the soldiers got out of the Jeep and started firing at the internationals. Rafa. Ghost homes. Glow-in-the-dark stars in teenagers' bedrooms. The tumbling of concrete. And the constant anonymous night vision telescope.
February 7th. I've been in Palestine for 2 weeks and 1 hour now, and I still have very few words to describe what I see. I don't know if these children have ever existed without tank shell shots in their walls, but they love me, and they love to get me to practice my very limited Arabic. You just can't imagine it unless you see it. And even then, it's not at all the reality because I have money to buy water. But the army destroys wells. And of course the fact that I have the option of leaving. I'm allowed to see the ocean. Once you've seen the ocean and lived in a silent place where water is taken for granted and not stolen at night by bulldozers, and once you've spent a quiet evening not wondering if the walls of your home might suddenly fall inward, you're not surrounded by towers and tanks and now a giant metal wall. I wonder if you can ever forgive the world for all the years spent resisting, just existing in resistance to the constant attempt to remove you from your home. That's something I wonder about these children. I am in Rafah, a city of 140,000 people, 60% of whom are refugees. Many of them twice or 3 times over. 602 homes have been completely bulldozed, and the number partially destroyed is greater. I knew a few years ago what the unbearable likeness was. The likeness between life and death. It's just a shrug. The difference between Hitler and my mother. The difference between Whitney Houston and a Russian mother watching her son fall through the pavement and boil to death. There are no fairness, there are no rules, there are no guarantees, there are no warranties on anything, and there's just a shrug, and with that shrug there, How could I believe in truth? How could I be a poet? And I knew back then, I knew that drug would come at the end of my life. I knew, and I thought, who cares, right? Who cares? Who cares if I die at 8 years old or at 8 p.m.? Who cares? Unfortunately, now I know who cares. Because I know if I die at 11:15 p.m. or 97 years old, I know it's me dying, and I know it's me. That's my job. It's my job.
February 20th. Both of the major checkpoints are closed, so people can't get to their jobs. Those trapped on the other side can't get home. I spent the evening and this morning with a family who fixed me dinner and had cable TV. The 2 front rooms of their house is completely unusable because gunshots have been fired through the walls. So the whole family has to sleep in the parents' bedroom. And I sleep on the floor next to the youngest daughter, and we all share blankets. I help the son with his English homework, a little. And then we watched Pet Sematary, which is a horrifying movie. They all thought it was pretty funny how much trouble I had watching it. Friday is the holiday. So when I woke up, they were all watching Gummy Bears, dubbed into Arabic. I ate breakfast with them, and then I just sat there and enjoyed being in this puddle of blankets with this family, watching what for me was like Saturday morning cartoons. Then I walked some way over to Brazil Block, which is where the big family lives, the one that has wholeheartedly adopted me. And the other day, the grandma, she came over to me and she gave me a lecture that involved a lot of blowing and pointing to her black shawl. I got Nidal to tell her that my mother would appreciate knowing that someone here was giving me a hard time about my smoking and turning my lungs black. I'm amazed at their strength in defending such a large degree of their humanity against such incredible horror occurring in their lives, against the constant presence of death. I think the word is dignity. Whenever I organize a public protest, I get really worried that it's gonna suck and be really small and embarrassing, and the media's gonna laugh at us. And oftentimes it does suck, it is embarrassing, and the media does laugh at us, and of course it doesn't get coverage all over the world, but in some places the word Rafa is mentioned outside of the Arab press. I'm staying put in Rafa for now. I have no plans to move up north. I have some very nice Palestinians looking after me here. I also caught a flu bug, but I got some lemonade drinks to cure me. And the lady that keeps the key to the well where we still sleep in, she keeps asking me about my mom. She wants to make sure I'm calling her.
Rachel, I am very concerned for you. I worry a little because I feel it could be easy to be manipulated by one faction or another. For myself, I feel like I'm fighting a lifetime of indoctrination. Palestinians have really been invisible to me. But you're changing that. In regards to Palestinian violence, I abhor my violence. I know most are trying feebly to defend themselves, but here, the mere mention of suicide bombing puts up walls. I have a lot on my heart. And I'm having trouble with the words. Be safe. Be well. Do you think about coming home because of the war and all? I know probably not. But I hope you know it's okay if you do. Mom.
February 28th. I look forward to seeing more people resist the direction where our personal experiences are irrelevant, that our communities are not important, that we are powerless, that the future is determined, and that the highest level of humanity is expressed by what we choose to buy at the mall. Maybe you should try to get Dad to quit his neoliberal job and become a math teacher. Maybe you should get him to try and sabotage his neoliberal job. Do you think he could accidentally dump a lot of dollars very cheaply into international markets? Okay. I'm sorry. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves.
Hey, you. Keep up the strength. It is much needed in this world. You're really making me want to go.
Holy shit, Todd, come here. The work we do needs people who know how to support this community. The people here are incredible. Come here, 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 come here.
March 1st. Workers at the well reported being fired upon Thursday. Despite guarantees of safety and the presence of banners and megaphones, workers were fired upon over several hours, close enough to spray debris in their faces. For more information about the report and the destruction of civilian water supplies in Rafah, please contact Rachel.
Rachel, I find writing to you hard, but not thinking about you impossible. So I don't write, but I do bore my friends at lunch, giving vent to my fear. I have reason to be afraid for you, very afraid for you, but I'm also proud of you. I'm very proud of you. And that's what brothers are, right? Hardwired?
Hardwired.
we're hardwired. I don't know how brave they are, or how old they are, or how much good they're doing to be subject to so much threat, or to even witness so much suffering. You may think it's wrong of me to stick my head in the sand. But I tell you this, I'm only trying to stick your head in the sand, kid. It's different. Hardwired.
Hi, Papa. Sometimes I feel like I spend all my time propagandizing Mom, assuming she'll pass stuff on to you so you get neglected. But please don't worry about me too much. I'm most concerned that we're not being effective here. I still don't feel particularly at risk. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I leave here. I really don't want to live with a lot of guilt about this place, being able to come and go so easily. Let me know if you have any ideas about what I should do with the rest of my life. Maybe you can write to me as if I'm on vacation in Hawaii, learning to weave. Something I do to help here is to utterly retreat into fantasies that I'm in a Hollywood movie or like a sitcom with Michael J. Fox. So feel free to make anything up. I'll be happy to play along. I remember the morning I walked with Colin to Puget Pantry to get cigarettes and last-minute prizes for a bingo game at work. I convinced Colin to go with me because Puget Pantry had
The Who's Tommy Pinball.
On the radio, the announcers mentioned giving blood, donating blood. What happened?
2 towers. Someone bombed. Someone bombed the what? Airplanes.
I look at things the wrong way. I know I do. I know what it's like not to be normal, though. But I don't know what it's like to have voices. And I don't know what it's like to sleep with the white knitted blankets. But yeah, those moments when you know the entire world is out there patting their stomachs saying, God bless us, everyone, and you're inside with the blue plastic gloves for cooking and the no self-harm contracts and the antibacterial hand cleanser. How to survive in a non-existent place. Choices. Go back to Olympia, go back to school, talk or presentations about Gaza, clean my stuff out of Sarah's garage, go to Dubai or Egypt, earn money, learn Arabic, come back to Palestine. Go to Sweden, potentially horrible, go broke, come back to Rafa. Money, productivity, travel somewhere. my soul's nomadic. I've always listened out of one ear to people speaking Spanish behind me on the bus. I've always stared upward at planes, cutting white paths through the sky, wondering where they're going. I've always been jealous of migratory birds. In a year or two, maybe I'll go to South America. And I'll smile across the water at the Olympics. And I'll ride over the rises and dips of the road that I've been traveling over my whole life. Through the cedars and past the barn. And when I see my old high school, I'll lean out the window and scream, "Fuck you!" Fuck you guys. Just for old time's sake. And when I get on Highway 101, I'll either go north towards the airport or south towards Mexico. I don't know. But when I leave, I'll leave laughing. And I'll come back to see my mom and my college friends, and we'll swim naked in Puget Sound at night. I don't know. And I won't be afraid to come back. Like I've always been afraid before. I'll cry, but I'll be smiling. And I'll hug my mom. I'll hug my mom.
March 9th. Today's demo. At least 10 greenhouses destroyed. Cucumbers, olives, peas, tomatoes. Quiet area. 300 people depended on farms to live. 150 to 200 men arrested. Shot around them, beat them, 6 injured. They don't understand what has happened. March 13th. Intensive care unit. A 12-year-old girl shot from tower in school near Nasir. 11 p.m. Shooting behind West Camp. Evacuated apartment buildings, 8 families. Shot inside hospital. 3 injured nurses. 6 a.m. Houses demolished. 41 injured. Bad nightmares, Mom. I see tanks and bulldozers outside our house and you and me inside it. I'm really scared for the people here. Yesterday I saw a father lead his 2 tiny children, holding his hand out of sight of tanks, bulldozers, sniper tower, because he thought that his house was going to be exploded. In fact, the Israeli armies were in the process of detonating an explosive in the ground nearby. Sunday, around 150 men were rounded outside the settlement with gunfire over their head. And meanwhile, the The tanks and the bulldozers, they destroyed 25 greenhouses. The livelihood of 300 people. To think that this man thought that it was less of a risk to be inside of the tank with his children than to be in his house. I was really scared that they were all going to be shot, Ma, and then I tried to stand in between them and the tanks. I thought a lot about what you said about the Palestinian violence not helping this situation. 60,000 people from Rafah worked in Israel 2 years ago. Now only 600 can go back for their job. Out of those 600, many have moved because the 3 checkpoints make a 40-minute drive into a 12-hour impassable journey. The sources of economic growth is completely destroyed. The airport, the border for Egypt trade, the access to the ocean, everything. There used to be a middle class here recently. The gas and flour shipments to Europe was delayed for 2 weeks because of security inspections. Can you imagine the effect of 2 weeks delayed flowers? So the market dried up. And then the tanks come, the bulldozers come, they take over the markets, the gardens, the farms! What is left for the people here? I can't think of anything. Tell me if you can, please.
So, when someone says that any act of Palestinian violence justifies Israel's actions, not only do I question that logic in the light of international law and the right of people in defense of their family and their lands. Not only do I question that logic in the light of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which prohibits collective punishment, prohibits the transfer of an occupied country into an occupied area, prohibits the expropriation of water resources and the destruction of civilian infrastructure such as farms. Not only do I question that logic on the basis of common sense, if any of us had our lives and welfare completely strangled and lived with children in a shrinking place where we knew that soldiers and tanks and bulldozers could come for us at any moment, and our houses demolished, do you not think most people would defend themselves as best as they could? You asked me about nonviolent resistance, and I mentioned the First Intifada. The vast majority of Palestinians right now, as far as I can tell, are engaging in a Gandhian nonviolent resistance. Who do you think I'm staying with in houses that are going to be demolished amid gunfire? Who do you think are staffing these human rights centers? Who do you think these families are that I tell you about, who don't take any money from us and they're very, very poor, and who say to us,
We are not hotel. We help you because We think that you go back to your country and you tell your people that you stayed with Muslims. We help you because we think that you'll tell your people that we are good people. We are quiet people. We just want peace.
You think I'm hanging out with Hamas fighters? These people are being shot at every day, and they continue to go about their business as best as they can in sights of machine guns and rocket launchers. Isn't that the epitome of nonviolent resistance? When that explosive detonated yesterday, I was in the process of being served tea and playing with the two small babies. I'm just sick to my stomach from being doted on so sweetly by people who are facing doom. A lot of the times, the kindness of the people here, coupled with the willful destruction of their lives, makes it seem unreal to me. I can't believe that this can happen in the world without a bigger outcry. It hurts me. Like it hurts me again to witness how awful we can allow the world to be. It's my own selfishness and will to optimism that wants to believe that people with a great deal of privilege don't just sit idly by and watch. What we are paying for is truly evil. I just want to tell my mom that I'm really scared and questioning my fundamental belief in the goodness of human nature. This has to stop. I think that it's a good idea for us to just drop everything and devote our lives to making this stop. I don't think it's an extremist thing to do anymore. I still want to dance around a Pat Benatar and have boyfriends and make comics for my coworkers, but I also want this to stop. Disbelief and horror is what I feel. Disappointment. I am disappointed that this is the base reality of the world that we live in, and we, in fact, participate in it. This is not at all what I asked for when I came into this world. This is not at all what they were asking for when they came into this world, and this is not what I'm asking for now. This is not the world that you and Dad wanted me to come into when you decided to have me. This is not what I meant when I was 2 and I looked up at Capitol Lake and I said, this is the wide world and I'm coming to it. When I get back from Palestine, I probably will still have nightmares and I'll feel so guilty for not being here, but I can channel that into more work. Coming here is one of the best things I've ever done. Love you, Dad. I'm sorry for the diatribe.
Come and get some peas.
Okay, some strange men are offering some peas, so I gotta go eat and thank them.
This government does not care about the safety of its own people and doesn't care at all about the lives of Palestinian people. I think it's ridiculous that my government supports this government and refer to Ariel Sharon as a man of peace. It's clear to me, being here, that Ariel Sharon is invested in perpetuating perpetuating violence. I think calling it a cycle of violence disregards the imbalance of power in this situation, that people's lives here are almost completely controlled by the Israeli government. And it's amazing that people are able to hold on to their humanity as much as they do.
Rachel walked to place herself between the home and the bulldozer, directly with her in its view. It continued toward her at some pace, building a mound of earth in front of it. She fell down the mound of earth and out the side of the driver. She started to slide. One, then both of her feet started to disappear until she simply continued until the place where she was, or the place where she had been, was directly underneath the cockpit of the bulldozer. They waited a few seconds and then withdrew, leaving its scoop on the ground. Only later it became much clearer her body did erase its scoop. I ran for an ambulance. She was gasping and her face was covered in blood from a gash cutting her face from lip to cheek. She was showing signs of hemorrhaging. She died in the ambulance a few minutes later.
Rachel Corrie died on March 16, 2003 at the age of 23.
These are my amazing actors that gave my voiceless Rachel a voice. They're all amazing. Hi.
How did you come up with the script? You guys read it as a cast? Or
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so if you guys know Alan Rickman, he's the guy who was like the head of Slytherin and had Harry Potter. He actually took all of Rachel Corrie's original emails and journals, kind of Anne Frank style, and conglomerated them into a play. And it's meant to be a one-woman show, but I took it and I made 40 different characters, and a chorus, and just threw in a couple of musical numbers.
You decide 40 characters. That's just.
Well, I didn't really keep count. I was just like, oh, this would be good. This would be good.
why this play?
Well, I got to go to Israel and Palestine myself in 2006. I did a lot of what Rachel did. She's very dear to my heart. She's very similar. And I wanted to come back and channel it into my work, as she said in scene 7. So I was like, how do I do that? And this was back in 2006. Someone told me about this play. I looked it up, got it. And it took me 9 years until now, thanks to New York Film Academy, I finally got to do the play.
A lot of people know about the play now, coming in to see it. And I certainly know, I've known Rachel Corrie's story. Were you all familiar with her prior to auditioning at all?
No.
Yeah, so you had no idea. Yeah, because nobody heard about it here in this country. Unless you listen to KBF.
Amen.
Yeah. So, yeah, I actually used to hear interviews that they were the only ones that actually did it. They would interview Rachel Corrie on the day that she got killed. They announced it, and it was not really announced widely. Interesting how we're kept in ignorance. But I mean, it's so nice that you all brought this to life. It's good.
And just another announcement on the front or back of your brochure. If you need to find more information or you want to help, there are a few websites that you can look up, or you could just Google Rachel Corrie and you'll see all kinds of stuff. If you want to get more information. There's a few organizations that are also Jewish Israeli friendly. It's B'Tselem, which means made in God's image. There's Jewish Voice for Peace. And the organization that I went with, that was really cool, and they're pretty safe. They wouldn't let me go to Gaza. Is Middle East Fellowship. They do Palestine Summer Encounter. Just travel Holy Lands. They set you up with an internship. I got to work with the refugee camp, and learn Arabic. Oh yeah, travel.
That's just what I was going to ask you. Since you were there after after she died, how did you feel going with that information?
Didn't bother me. I'm a lot like her. Actually, I got yelled at a lot for going in the front lines with my little Care Bear backpack. It's just when you're there and you meet these people, they're like your family. Like my host dad was like my dad too. He's like, you're my daughter, and we want to see you get married. They're so sweet. They do fireworks when they get married, and it's like this is your family, and that's kind of why we wanted to depict the family with their 2 kids as Rachel's family going out, so we can understand like this is my own family going out there. That's why I'm going to stand in front of this tank. I don't know, and also I knew that this particular organization was safe, so I knew that I wouldn't be doing the same exact things. That helped my mom at least.
How long were you there for?
Just 2 months. Yeah, that's about as long as she was there, a month and a half.
Did you find anything what was happening anymore communication?
Improving communication.
Between the 2 factions at all? Was there anything? I mean, they just quote what kind of part did you do?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same. It's been the same for a long time. And that's sort of why when I found this play, I've been wanting to do it for so long, because I feel like when you're having dinner, what are the 2 things you can't talk about, politics or religion, unless you have comedy and art? So that's why we're here.
Well, thank you.